For every perk that fame has to offer, several drawbacks come with it. Most celebrities try to live as normal lives as possible, but their notoriety means they have to go to extraordinary means to maintain the safety of themselves and their families. While these household names may always be on our pop culture radar, they'll buy their own radar systems to keep strangers from getting anywhere near their homes. Here, the Hub counts down 10 famous people with heavily guarded mansions. And like a paparazzi clicking a camera, click on the subscribe button to see what other eccentric things the rich and famous may be doing on the Hub. Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen. Tom and Gisele live a charmed life. One is among the highest regarded athletes of all time, and the other is one of the most popular supermodels ever. With a net worth that makes them the second highest earning celebrity couple on earth, they're able to afford sprawling properties in LA and Boston. And after getting his jersey stolen, we can imagine the couple beefed up security in and around their homes to make sure nothing like that ever happens in one of their private properties. They spend most of their private time in their Brookline, Massachusetts home with 5 massive bedrooms and a kitchen attended to by a private chef. However, it doesn't compare to their estate in Southern California. While they sold this palace to Dr. Dre in 2014, it came with a special security feature usually reserved for castles, its own moat. The exterior is inspired by French architecture from the Middle Ages and features waterfalls and a resort-style pool. If you can catapult over the moat and scale the limestone walls, then congratulations, you've made it into Tom Brady's former house. But be glad you didn't try breaking in when he lives there. With his throwing arm and a penchant for bygone eras, there's no telling what kind of sword or mace he could have thrown your way. Milos Zeman. Tom Brady's house is pretty cool, but does he live in an actual castle? Milos Zeman, the president of the Czech Republic, gets to spend his term residing in the magnificent Prague castle. The mansions of other countries' presidents aren't too shabby, but they can't compare to this government fortification. As a UNESCO-recognized building, first constructed in the year 880, that title serves as a symbolic protection for this 1,000-plus-year-old building. As such, its Romanesque and Gothic structures are also protected by the Czech government and Prague's surrounding police force. In 2015, protesters were able to hang a pair of red underwear on top of the castle to speak out against the president's policies. As a result, the team of security personnel has been considerably built up since then. At more than 758,000 square feet, there's a lot of castle to guard, and while much of the historical buildings and cathedrals on the complex grounds are open to the public, even those areas are hard to reach. With only 4 entrances open to general admission, guards will search the belongings of each visitor, no matter how large or small. The waits are often several hours long, and lines can reach 600 feet. Tom Cruise. Even private citizens can have extensive security details. At 55 years old, Tom Cruise follows an intense regimen to maintain healthy shape and keep his top-notch action star status. How he's able to suction cup his way up the side of tall buildings, hang onto the outside of flying cargo planes, and maintain a top spot in his religion is beyond our grasp, but much of it is probably thanks to his militaristic precision. Apparently, that discipline extends to his security staff. In his Bel Air home, his different teams are confined to each wing of the mansion. Outside of the head of security and the estate manager, the kitchen staff must stay in the dining area, and other members must stick to the areas defined in their job descriptions. Allegedly, another requirement is to undergo a day of intensive personality testing at LA's Scientology Celebrity Center. Not many celebrities can say their security is overseen by an entire religion. And that sense of organization trickles down to Cruise, who on top of relying on guards at the gate managing all entrances and exits, also has guest homes and apartments on his property for management and daily staffers. To be an actor that successful, you need to run your life like a big business. Queen Elizabeth II. Some people have beach houses or vacation homes. Queen Elizabeth has Windsor Castle. Although she spends much of her time at Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle is another sprawling landmark that houses the royal family. Known as the oldest and largest inhabited castle in the world, this palace is over 1,000 years old, much like the Prague Castle. Not only are there highly trained royal guards manning the gates, the castle has undergone added measures in surrounding road closures following the recent terror attacks in London. While the changing of the guard is open to the public as a traditional spectacle, access to this event has been increasingly restricted over recent concerns. With high stone walls, thin windows, and a partial border to the River Thames, this fort can still rely on its ancient defenses to keep it safe. Both its significance as a military stronghold and the Queen's residence allows it to maintain a considerable amount of attention from the British government. In spite of all the manpower, on-site sensors, and modern safehouse upgrades, it's near a scenic hunting ground. Despite the scary outside world, no threat can keep the Queen from still enjoying a regular horse ride through Royal Park. Ira Rennert. While it doesn't have the history of Windsor Castle, the Hamptons Fairfield estate houses America's version of self-crowned royalty. Owned by Ira Renner, Fairfield Estate is valued at $248 million and costs more than $500,000 in yearly property taxes. Renner's a Bond billionaire, and his huge grounds border the beach and hold enough land to comfortably fit a small town inside its gates. There's also a 164-seat movie theater, tennis courts, squash courts, basketball courts, 2 bowling lanes, a personal art museum, and a small power plant. Gated with security guards at all entrances, personnel regularly drive around the perimeter with high beams that have caused complaints from the neighbors. Not to mention Renner's 2 helicopters that regularly fly in and out around his property and led area residents to form a Quiet Skies coalition. With irate citizens on all sides, controversial business ties around the world, and a seemingly unlimited piggy bank, the owner of the Fairfield Estate undoubtedly has top-notch alarm and sensory equipment, not to mention any kind of hidden panic rooms to connect to all of the 29 bedrooms and 49 bathrooms on site. George Clooney. Clooney and his wife, Amal Alamuddin, enjoyed the comfort and high-end luxury of their 17th century manor house in Berkshire, England. But when it came to safety, the property was in need of an upgrade. A fireproof, bomb-proof, and bulletproof panic room was added to a secret location in the residence, and supposedly the addition was more of an answer to Amal's concern than her husband's. As an attorney who handles sensitive cases and well-known clientele, she wanted an extra level of protection for her home environment. By putting herself out on the line litigating and advocating for human rights, she has the potential for some formidable and threatening enemies. The home is secluded in the countryside, and its position away from any main roads certainly helps keep it incognito. After Amal's pregnancy was revealed, the couple decided to make their base of operations out of Clooney's mansion in Studio City, California. With the help of former Secret Service agents, they were able to case both mansions and determine that the extra defenses in the LA location were even more protected than their British panic room. We can only imagine what secret hideaways lurk in this California mega house. Britney Spears. Unlike the international dangers faced by George and Amal, Britney Spears' main threats are the tabloid photographers who follow her every move. Whether the media proclaims the "Oops, I Did It Again" singer's star to be rising, falling, or rising again, her privacy has been invaded enough to encourage an over-the-top security system. With an average annual bill of $500,000, Spears shells out for these astronomical charges to cover her alarm system maintenance and team of bodyguards. Although she's lived within the gates of Sherwood Country Club, which comes with its own team of guards, she's always been accompanied by a team of protectors following her to each of the many places she's called home over the past 20 years. Their job responsibilities even cover areas outside home. When Spears collaborated with Iggy Azalea in 2015 on Pretty Girls, Britney's team searched her house before Spears entered to make sure no illegal substances were stashed there. In order to be a guard in Britney's entourage, it sounds like they need to protect the singer from both outside forces and from herself. But thanks to her string of successful residencies in Las Vegas, she can afford it. Bill Gates. He's not a tech expert for nothing. Bill Gates' mind was put to good use when creating and developing the Microsoft empire, but he also spent his extensive brainpower on devising the plans for his high-tech home in Washington state. Natural boundaries of densely planted trees and foliage keep photographers and reporters from getting too close to the house. And whatever the greenery doesn't keep out, the heat sensors and hidden cameras certainly will. These heat detectors are top of the line, with the ability to detect intruders on the property from over a mile away. Inside, the heat detectors are even more complex, and all inhabitants need to wear a special pin so as not to set off any alarms. This pin is also specially configured to fit the wearer's taste, so much so that the room will adapt to their preferred levels of heating and lighting. Hidden speakers will play their favorite music, and wall-mounted screens will display their favorite works of art. If you're looking to find a way into the property and just want to sneak a peek at the guest house, good luck getting into that. Those quarters served as a testing ground for all of the tech featured in the main mansion, so it's equipped with the same exact defenses. 50 Cent. 50 Cent recently dealt with the same problem many mansion owners face. Thanks to the size of his grandiose home and the fact that 50 Cent was probably said to be elsewhere on social media, it was pretty easy for burglars to know when the house was empty. They broke into the property and snuck around his garage. It was there that the security system tipped off the property manager that some illegal activity was afoot. Not only were the police alerted, but he was able to watch the burglars' every move thanks to the closed-circuit cameras hidden on the inside and outside of the building. The clear imaging of the cameras gave the authorities all the evidence they needed to convict the burglar. At $20,000 per week, 50 Cent was regularly spending over $1 million annually on surveillance as of 2009. While that fee seems insane, 50 Cent has the means to afford it. And given that he's survived several previous attacks on his life, it seems like a worthwhile expense. He'd rather get rich than die trying. The Pope. The humble Pope Francis refused to stay in his luxurious papal apartments and instead chose to live in his Vatican hotel suite. But as small-scale as this may sound, anywhere within the Vatican is ornate and historical, so he's probably not missing much. And wherever the Pope is, his security guard is monitored by the highly trained Swiss guards. As its own tiny country, the Vatican also has its own police force. Although crime rates within the Vatican's walls are incredibly high for such a tiny population, most offenses are related to pickpocketing and other petty crimes. The bulletproof Pope-mobile has been around for nearly 40 years, but Francis prefers to mingle among the crowds, meaning the staff needs to follow him closely to ensure he's safe. With the Swiss guards at his side, that shouldn't be a problem. The order is over 500 years old and made up of retired members of the Swiss military, all younger than age 30. As the Catholic Church is steeped in tradition, it's fitting that the Pope's guard wears old-school armor and is particularly deadly with a spear in their hands. But make no mistake, they're well-trained with modern firepower too. When the Pope goes out of his way to connect with people out in the crowds, the guards are not too far behind. And after a long day with his followers, he heads home to his highly guarded compound. Thanks for joining the Hub as we snooped on these famous people with heavily guarded mansions. Come back soon to watch more interesting, weird, and crazy stories involving ordinary and extraordinary people on the Hub.